Welcome to the Peer Meet the Students podcast, where we showcase a student or researcher from the Peer Pacific Earthquake Engineering Research Center community. This month is a special edition where we, the Peer Student Committee, will be introducing ourselves. My name is Chrystal Chern, and I'm a PhD student at UC Berkeley. My advisor is Professor Khalid Masalam, and I study structural health monitoring.
My name is Bryam Astudillo. I am doing my PhD in Oregon State University, and my advisor is Professor Barbara Simpson, and we do research on Stromback systems.
My name is Rodrigo Silva-Lopez. I'm a fifth-year PhD student at Stanford University. I'm working under the supervision of Professor Jack Baker, and my research focus is on improving the resilience of transportation networks by looking at optimal retrofitting strategies.
Hi everyone, my name is Laura Hernandez-Bassal, and I'm currently a student at UC Davis working with Professor Sashi Kunal, and my research is on building response in performance-based engineering.
We would like to start out with a few short and fun questions. The first question is, if a movie was made of your life, what genre would it be? Or what is your favorite movie genre?
I think my movie would be a drama, but not because my life is dramatic, but because I think life is made of comedy and also like a little bit of horror, a little bit of action, a little bit of sadness. And drama is not only about dramatic action, but like it's a combination of all of them.
I love movies and TV that combine comedy, mystery, and drama. So if you've heard the term dramedy, that's my style.
Yeah, I'll say it'll be a mix of many genres, just as life. So probably it'll be a little bit of mystery, some suspense, comedy, and even some romance too. Yeah, but in general, I like suspenseful thriller movies. Yeah, those that kind of play with your mind a little bit.
So I don't really have a favorite type of movie, but I got really into the MCU with the Marvel movies during the pandemic. And I really, really like how they're all interconnected, and you kind of have to know what's going on in all the movies to really, really get it.
The next question is, what's your favorite animal?
So I really like all types of flying creatures, but I really like hummingbirds and the way that they move. I just kind of love staring at them and seeing how they move them dynamically.
This is my favorite animal. His name is Lefty, and he is my dog. He's 13 years old. Very calm, as you can see.
This is my winter dog. He lives in Chile with my sister. His name is Pancito, which translates to little bread, because he's a winner, so like a little bread winner. And I would say yeah, dogs are my favorite animals. And like how they're always there for you.
Yeah, you can say now that my favorite animal will be a beaver. Yeah, just because always you.
The next question is, what has been your favorite moment in grad school so far? Or what is your favorite thing about grad school?
So one of my favorite parts of grad school is actually taking the qualifying exam. And it's because I felt like at that point, everything was in my brain. Like I knew every course material very well, and I really understood how everything was interconnected. So I feel like in terms of course material, that was kind of like the climax of my education at UC Davis.
My favorite part of graduate school so far is when we were testing our full-scale specimens at the e-defense shape table in Japan. We could not travel there because of COVID, but like we were immersed in the project and communicating with the collaborators every day during that week.
I'm going to answer what my favorite things about grad school are. So I have a few. One is the opportunity to continue taking classes and learn in a structured environment. That's a pretty unique opportunity. Another is the freedom I have to explore new problem-solving methods and complex topics. And then the third is meeting and working with people who share those interests.
I would say that one of my fondest memory was during my first year in 2018. I was the peer meeting, my first peer meeting. I'm originally from Chile, I did my undergrad there. So I did a little bit of research as I had to do a thesis for my undergrad. And I read about all these professors that had papers and books. And in the peer meeting, which is such like a small community where people are kind of like really close to each other, I went to the van. I was like starstruck for a little bit. I was like, oh, you're this professor I wrote so many papers about. I'm like, oh, like I studied undergrad with your book. That year it was held in Berkeley, which is 6,000 miles away from Chile. So I was like, wow, like it was impressive to see all the people across the US, also international people gathering together in the same place to discuss what I was passionate about.
The next question is, what hobbies do you enjoy?
Yeah, I mostly enjoy playing soccer, but I'm also down like to try other new sports. And I'll say also programming or coding is also another hobby I enjoy. Actually, that's kind of work related also, but like I'll take it as a hobby too. Yeah.
My hobbies are making art, making things, hiking, yoga, dancing, hang out with my dog, and napping.
What I do mostly during my free time is swimming. I do swim a lot. I do love board games as well, like getting out with like the idea of like meeting up with friends and like playing board games and like having some drinks. That's like a really nice thing to do. Actually, I also like art a lot, and we have like a really nice museum on campus. So every time I like need a break or something, I just like walk there and like stay there for a little bit. It's not like I know a lot about it, but it's like just like how it makes you feel. And my favorite one is actually modern art. Like if you see like a white painting and that's it, and you don't understand what it is, that's my favorite one. It's like just like the concept of like something that invites you to like not have meaning at all, which makes sense. So we're engineers and we try to get meaning out of everything. So why does everything have to have a meaning?
So I really like dancing. I like dancing salsa, merengue, bachata, swing, a little bit of samba. And I actually also love board games. I really like this game, Ticket to Ride, Dominion, Panam, Pandemic, Settlers of Catan. Like all of those are some of my favorites.
The next question is, what's something you would put on your bucket list? I have one big thing on my bucket list is that I want to learn to surf.
So I love traveling, and one of my bucket list countries is Egypt.
I would like to go to a FIFA Soccer World Cup. Yeah, and actually the 2026 edition will take part in the US too. So yeah, that would be a good time to be here.
Something that is in my bucket list is that I promised myself that after graduating, I want to learn how to play piano and sing. I used to sing by myself quite often, like, and then like my boyfriend and like people started listening to me. I was like, well, you're actually like decent. You should think about like doing like training yourself and doing that. I was like, okay, it's not like I'm a great singer, but it's like, I don't know, like I want to try to like learn how to do that properly.
The last fun question is, what course did you enjoy the most in school? I've really enjoyed all my classes at Berkeley for all different reasons, but one of my favorites in terms of it being fun and practical was Data 100, which is Principles and Techniques of Data Science.
One of my favorite classes that I took through grad school was actually artificial intelligence. It was really fun, like the assignments and like what I was learning and realizing that, oh, actually, I'm actually like good at coding. And basically some of the assignments were like, you have to teach Pac-Man how to win the game. Also, we had some like lectures on image recognition. So in my case, I train a neural network to recognize whether or not my photo was my dog or not. So like I show a picture of a building, it was really like that's not Pancito with 70% probability.
I also really liked all my classes, but I really like this course, structural matrix analysis, because it was kind of, you have the theory, but then you have to create your own code. And so I really enjoyed coding everything and coming up with a system that was efficient, but that worked for me, and a program that I can use in the future for myself.
Yeah, so I would say my favorite course in grad school was structural reliability and risk analysis. Also because it involves like all the probabilities, and then you do like a lot of analysis, and then you mix like, okay, so these are the nonlinear analysis, and you got the probability, and yeah, that just mixes both words.
Thank you everyone for sticking with us through the fun questions. Now we'll be talking about our academic careers. So the first question is, what made you interested in earthquake engineering?
In my case, when I think about earthquake engineering, my answer is going to be a little bit of a cliche because I'm originally from Chile and we have so many earthquakes. During high school, actually, when I was a student in high school in 2010, we have an 8.8 earthquake, which is like huge. It lasted for like 2 to 3 minutes. I have vivid memories of like how strong it was and my feelings throughout it. And then throughout high school, I've always been good at like science and math. I was like, okay, what can I do in which I can apply this tool to help my community and understand something that's interesting? So I was like, oh, I felt an earthquake, it felt interesting, and I saw how it affected my community. So that's why I got my undergrad in civil engineering. And actually for a little bit, I was trying to become a seismology, but then I realized that, oh, it's not about like, I'm not passionate about understanding earthquakes from the scientific point of view, but it was like how we can actually take action to prevent consequences of them. So that was like, okay, I'm not a seismologist, I'm an earthquake engineer.
What about you, Bryam?
First, like I've always liked mathematics, physics. So then I said like engineering was a good fit for me. And then also I was born and raised in Ecuador. We are in the ring of fire, just like Chile or the US West Coast. So yeah, then I say like, okay, so probably a structural engineering will be a good profession. But then when I took the matrix structural analysis class, and then like I saw I can, let's say, merge these structural problems with coding and like using some scripts, then that's when I knew that I wanted to help society through structural engineering and seismic engineering, mostly on the doing numerical models or seismic analysis. Yeah.
When I started grad school, I knew I wanted to gain like a deeper understanding of structural analysis and modeling. I just thought it was really interesting. I also wanted to look into new ways of problem solving in structural engineering, kind of advancing more theoretical stuff. And structural health monitoring caught my eye. And then the problem of assessing performance after an earthquake, I found out just has so many exciting parts, like continuous monitoring and data processing and dynamic analysis and damage assessment. And so just by getting into that type of research, that's how I got hooked onto earthquake engineering.
I originally got into structural engineering because I kind of really liked architecture, but then I realized that, kind of similar to some of you, I really like science and math. And so that's kind of the path that brought me to structural engineering, but specifically for earthquake engineering. In around 2012, I was in RAU for NICE, which was the network for earthquake engineering simulation back then. And so as part of that program, I was exposed to so many different research projects in earthquake engineering, and it really caught my attention. And actually, that's what was my initial motivator for pursuing grad school in structural and earthquake engineering. So that was kind of a big moment for me.
The next question is, what are your current career goals?
Following my motivation to think about how I can use my background to help communities, I would say that my long-term career goal will be to use my knowledge that I developed through years in structural engineering, computer science, artificial intelligence, to think about how we can mitigate the impact of these natural disasters. While I love earthquake engineering and what it has achieved, I do think that in the future, there are going to be disasters that go beyond earthquakes, such as coastal hazards. So I would love to think about about natural disasters in general and risk. So what I would like as a career goal would be to use these tools. So it's either industry or academia. I don't really care. It's about like how I can have a greater impact in that field while having a life for myself as well.
So last month I just defended my MS thesis, and let's say I am just transitioning into my PhD degree. Yeah, but as for now, like my current goals are just to let's say publish the work that I did from the e-defense testing program, right? And then expand my research for my PhD and expand the research on these Stromberg topics. But then looking forward, after I finish my PhD, I would like to explore opportunities, whether it is on the in the academy or in the industry, but I would like to become a faculty in a US institution. And otherwise, I will also explore options of working for some agencies that have a research component. So then I can kind of mix technology and structural engineering. Yeah.
I want to end up somewhere where I can continue exploring complex topics related to data science and the resilience of the built environment, or other goals related to like well-being of humans and the environment. I'd also like the opportunity to build community among scientists and engineers. And right now, research and academia are a good fit for me, but I'm taking it day by day.
For me, I do want to go back to industry after graduating. So I want to go back and, do structural engineering work. That's exciting. But throughout my grad studies, I really enjoy teaching. And so I would love to be able to adjunct teach a few semesters here and there throughout my career.
The next question, what are your research objectives?
So when it comes to my research objectives in this field of community resilience, I've been exploring how lifelines are affected by natural disasters and how we can improve them to mitigate the impacts of our communities. So in that regard, it sounds like a small statement, but you can start decomposing in different factors. So you have, as a first step, what do you envision with impacts for our communities? What's our community? And then how we realize that some impacts are disproportionately because of different factors of the community that can be socioeconomic, that can be racial. So that's one aspect that's important. The second part, if you're thinking about distributed systems, these are complex systems that are interconnected and that are really complex to model when it comes to how they interact with hazard. So in that regard, research objective would be to quantify to how properly, given the limitation we have in terms of data and computational power, to have a reliable assessment of these systems. And then on top of that, as a final research objective, you have the community, you have the assessment of distributed systems, and then you have to propose actions. So in that regard, third research objective would be how to propose strategies that could inform policymakers' decision makings to improve the management of these systems in the face of natural disasters.
My research at OSU focuses on strong back systems towards more resilient structures. So strong back systems are atypical configurations that basically want to prevent the story mechanism that can happen in typical lateral force resistance systems. So therefore, we can have a better structural performance. In the first part of my research, we did this full-scale testing at the E-defense. So there we tested like a moment-resistant frame that was weak. We added a spine, and then that way we prevented the story mechanism. But then this brings to the other point that these kind of systems have higher contribution of or a larger contribution of higher modes. Okay, so then we also explored some ways to mitigate those higher mode effects that causes larger floor separations. So that way we look at both things, drift concentrations and floor accelerations. So now we are taking those results and then just expanding it to more archetypes, so we can do like collapse assessment of structures, like using FEMA P695 methodologies, and so that we can quantify the performance of those atypical systems.
My main research goal is to explore automation and optimization in structural health monitoring so that resilience in the built environment can be improved in terms of safety and efficiency. So for example, by taking advantage of sensors and data, we could potentially decrease the amount of like field workers doing in-person inspections after a potentially damaging event and risking their safety, and also make decisions about operability of structures more efficient. And the particular way I'm currently looking at this problem is by investigating a digital twin methodology for structural health monitoring. So you have a continuously monitored structure and its digital twin, which is just a structural analysis model that gets updated continuously, that so that you can incorporate some model validation and updating, as well as we also use machine learning enabled rapid damage detection and assessment so that things can be monitored in real time.
So I'm currently working in evaluating analysis methods and modeling approaches within buildings for performance-based engineering. And so specifically, I'm looking at still moment frames and concrete shear wall buildings. And I'm doing AAC 41 evaluations and assessing how we improve these guidelines. So really, my main research objective is to have results and to have observations that can be used by practicing engineers pretty much right away, but also beyond, for the next decade until we keep improving some of these methods that we're using.
So the next question is, what are some important aspects of your field of research?
In my case, as I mentioned, my research relates to lifeline engineering against natural disasters. And I would say the most important things or aspects of this topic of research is that it involves complex systems with thousands of components that are interrelated in a highly nonlinear way. And then secondly, the performance of these systems involves regional areas or communities. So for instance, we don't care that a bridge collapses because a bridge collapses, but we actually care because of all the impacts that it can have of the community. So this aspect of being regional implies that all research that has to be performed in that area, they can be really complex algorithm optimization techniques, but ultimately at the end of the day, you have to translate that ideally into a policy. So it's not like you just have to say, hey, I implemented this complex machine learning algorithm and these are the bridges, you should write of it. But it's like, if you go to Caltrans, you'll be like, why? What are the features? What's the ranking? Why is that bridge important? So that's kind of like bridging the gap between complex techniques and policy making. It was something really important.
So yeah, so since in my research, we are dealing with atypical systems, it is very important to first understand the designs and performance of the typical configurations. So then once we understand the typical systems, we can explore or adapt the other atypical systems. Yeah. Also, I'll say that one important aspect of my research right now is to have some expertise in nonlinear modeling and programming. Yeah, because all of your results will be based on numerical simulations once you do collapse performance, for example. So you have to have some expertise on that and make sure your numerical models are running correct. So then you can trust your results.
One important aspect of the research I do is that you have to balance making sure there's enough physical meaning in your models, especially if you're doing machine learning and optimization, kind of using algorithms that are more black box can lose some of the physical meaning. So balancing that, but also optimizing. The reason we use algorithms is to make things quicker and simplify when the model can have additional complexity that's not adding too much to the results. So balancing those two things. And then another thing that's kind of applicable to all research, but make sure to double check things. Collaborating when you're researching is really important so that you can check each other's scripts and calculations and everything along the way, because one tiny little mistake can really mess up your results. So
my research is very practical, and one really important aspect of it is that I really need to understand how engineers in industry at different firms are actually using the codes. And so, how are they modeling the buildings? What choices are they making and calibrating their models? And this is really important because we need to know how they're doing it so that we can provide recommendations on how they can improve their methods as well.
What activities in your research have been the most challenging?
I would say that regarding the challenges of my research, there are two challenges that have been the hardest. One have been the computational times involved in analyzing such complex systems such as road level, which is my case. And the second one is quantifying the impacts of road network disruption on communities and make sense out of that. As an example of the computational cost, just assigning traffic on the San Francisco Bay Area, which is my test bed for one size-fixed scenario on my own computer, takes 6 hours. To do reliable analysis, I have to run all around 2,000 scenarios. So 6 hours times 2,000, that's like a ton of time, right? So that going around that problem to come up with reliable metrics, that has been quite a challenge. And then the second challenge of quantifying metrics is that it really happens a lot in these distributed systems. In my case, road networks, I could say, oh, I'm going to quantify the performance using travel time. But then there are some weird cases that you don't anticipate. For instance, if all bridges are collapsed and all people are disconnected, then yeah, that's better because nobody's traveling. So travel time is 0. That's actually, so how do you actually quantify the impacts? And then what do those impacts mean?
I'll say in my research, one of the main challenges we had was, so prior to testing, we had to do like a best guess of what we expect from that testing, right? So if you get your results from one model, you will have some estimates, but then you change something in your model and you get like another result, right? So then you don't know which model you should trust. So yeah, we actually address that challenge by like taking a more probabilistic approach. So like involving random variables and everything. So instead of having just one result, we have a range of results, right? So yeah, that was kind of the challenges we have. And then in general, adapting to the remote collaboration, yeah, because we are different institutions, so we always have to do the meetings on Zoom and everything. And yeah, and also like one personal challenge I had for the research is the writing part. Yeah, because I can have like very nice plots and like good scripts results, but at the end I have to communicate that, right? If I don't put that into a manuscript or something, then nobody will actually realize about what I did. So yeah, that's something actually my advisor have been helping me a lot with, like providing the feedback and everything, so we can put that in a document.
I think the challenges that stood out to me most in my research was actually more like day-to-day getting support, figuring out where to find resources, what literature to read, finding community and collaboration. It was pretty tough for me in the first couple years of grad school. So it's not specific to my actual research, but those are the activities that have been the most challenging. But recently with the pandemic kind of lightening a little bit, being able to get in touch with more people and getting more support has been a little bit easier.
So for me, I think in general, it's really tough sometimes to estimate how long something's going to take, particularly because in research, there are so many different obstacles that come up and you have to investigate more than you originally thought. So, for example, even though I'm looking at system level response of buildings, I have to make sure that all of the components are that I'm using are calibrated. And I want to make sure that the material is calibrated to experimental results. And so it takes time to do all of that. And, it's just hard to estimate how long.
What advice would you give your former self at the beginning of your academic career?
If I had the chance to talk to myself back in 2017, starting my master's program, I would say 2 things. First is that at Stanford, when you start a PhD, normally you do the master's and you have to take several classes, and on top of that, do research, and that's really challenging, especially if you're doing a quarter system. So I would tell myself first, like, you're doing all right, you're good enough. Don't stress yourself so much. I think that I fall into a lot of trap of like, hey, being obsessed of like working and staying until late and so on, which paid a lot of results. But then I feel that I could have been happier regardless of like not having worked so much. So I would say you're good and feel good about that. And then the second thing is reach out to people and connect in terms of collaborating and enriching your experience as grad school by connect with the people that will open doors in terms of research opportunities, especially in the realm of natural disasters?
Yeah, I'll say to myself, like, just keep up with the curiosity and perseverance, and then like you'll have opportunities and also learning experiences along the way. So just no worries about it. And yeah, I also like Rodrigo comment about reach out to people, because sometimes people are willing to help you with, like, even if it is a problem in your research, or like a job opportunity or an internship or something like that. Just express it to other people, and then they might help you.
My answer is very similar to Rodrigo's. I would tell my former me that she's doing a great job, even if you don't feel capable. Nobody starts out being capable, and the only way you get capable is by doing things. Yeah, I would tell her to stick with it, and it will click one day, even if that seems impossible. And also find people, keep reaching out to people, and trust the process.
So I would tell myself something similar in terms of everything that you do is a learning process, right? It's a learning opportunity. So even though you worked so hard on one specific part of your project that might have not led to something, you learned, and that makes you a better researcher. And so something that I would tell my past self as well is, at the end of each term, think about what you've done, what you've accomplished, and be proud of everything that you've done so far.
The last question is, can you talk about any achievements or projects that you are especially proud of?
I think that growing up in Chile, it's really hard to access knowledge and access sciences. Like getting to college is really hard. There are not a lot of opportunities, and people are really away from academic institutions. I think that one of the things that I enjoyed the most as an undergrad is that I was one of the leaders of the outreach office at the School of Engineering. During one of the years I was there, I was the chief coordinator of a science fair held by my undergrad institution of engineering and science. And we had over 15,000 people visiting campus in 2 days. And like seeing, as a leader of the project, it was really like seeing kids that had never set foot in any scientific institution, seeing like, oh, there's like a robot or a building, and being able like, oh, maybe in the future I could try and access that as well. Because they've been taught like, hey, like you are that and you're not gonna be nothing more than what you are, but like having this instance of like interacting with people in science and being the one that was afraid to do that, it was like really, it was a really nice feeling.
Yeah, one of the things I am proud of is to being able to secure a Fulbright scholarship, because that helped me to come to study in the US. So yeah, since I was completing my undergrad studies, like I had on my mind that like, I want to study at a peer institution, right? But then when I got that scholarship, that's what helped me to get into one. Yeah.
My achievement that I'm especially proud of is the fact that I'm still here and that I didn't drop out. Yeah, it's really tough. Probably for a lot of students to feel like they belong in a PhD program. So I definitely experienced that, and I'm proud that I stuck with it. Another achievement I'm proud of is helping to coordinate my current research project, which is kind of a large project with maybe like 15 people. And it's just really great to be able to help coordinate the different tasks of the project into the different subgroups of the whole research group and organizing everything. So I'm proud of that too.
So besides research, I'm proud to have been one of the founders of the graduate student branch of CALES, which is the Chicanx and Latinx Engineers and Scientists Society at UC Davis. And so, I'm proud of that we've created this community for graduate students in STEM of Latinx background to come together, for professional development and, aid in their academic journey. And also now that I think about it, I don't think I give myself enough credit for this, but I'm really proud of continuing to do research as a first-time mom and, managing all my time. every single day. So I just want to give a shout out to Chrystal and Bryam for taking lead in this initiative of the student interviews. We thought that it went really well, and it was a way for us to showcase some of our students and postdocs at the different peer institutions. And so thank you so much to both of you, as well as to Rodrigo for leading some of them as well. And, we look forward to holding this series in the next year.
Thank you. It was really a pleasure. Thank you to everyone viewing and listening to our podcast and getting involved in our initiatives. Please keep an eye out on the peer newsletter and feel free to get in touch with us by contacting any of us. We'll be giving our contact information in a second, or look on the peer website and you can find the peer student committee stuff there. And look out for our future initiatives coming soon.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Before we go, we'll talk about how to find us or get in touch with all of us. In my case, you can reach out to me through my email, rsilval@stanford.edu, or through my website, rsilvalopez.com.
Yeah, you can reach out to me in my website, bryamastudillo.com.
In my case, you can reach out to me through email. It's cchern@berkeley.edu.
And for me, you can find me at Laura Hernandez@ucdavis.edu or in LinkedIn as Laura Hernandez-Bassal.
Thanks, everyone. This concludes our special edition spotlight for the Meet the Peer Student series.